But I do want to just ask you all to give yourself an acknowledgement just for making it here, because seriously, if you are currently supporting or assisting or even living with someone who has kidney disease, it isn't always easy to find the time to do something like this that is sort of for ourselves. And attending a virtual session as a caregiver can require a lot of coordination and sometimes timing around treatments and dialysis appointments. So, and sometimes just the emotional energy. So I just want to really acknowledge that you're here, and that's what matters. So we're not going to try and add anything to your plate today, but just more wanting to notice what's already here for you. So thank you, and thank you for having me. I am, as Tim mentioned, I'm Francine, and I have been working in renal services sort of across the board, kidney care, dialysis, home dialysis, transplant for over a decade now in a social work capacity, and have also about 5 years ago became a certified coach. And shortly after that, started working with the Kidney Foundation through their Kidney Wellness Hub, offering the kidney wellness coaching, and work I really do enjoy doing. Aside from that, I am a mom to two. I play a supportive role in some family members' lives. I live and work on the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people on the West Coast, on the traditional territory of the Nunavut First Nations, also known as Nanaimo on Vancouver Island. And while I would love to have more time to get to know all of your stories and a bit more about you, it is a good size group, which is lovely to see. And so I just welcome you all and hope you have some value in today's session. I just want to have a note. I'm sure that sort of goes without saying, but I will be inviting you to add some comments through the chat function at different times. There's no pressure to participate. I just want you to show up sort of however works for you. But of course, if throughout our time together, anyone is sharing anything that is personal, I just want to sort of encourage people to honor that the confidentiality piece of not sort of sharing other people's stories outside of this group. I also want everyone to take care of themselves. We're not trying to bring up anything that's too sensitive or triggering, but everybody comes with their own stuff. So please, if you need to step away, please just do. If you need to connect with someone afterwards, please reach out. We've got the chat function that is functioning. If anybody has any questions that it's sort of like can't move forward without it, put it in the chat function. And then I believe we have some people in the background there who can monitor that and just kind of alert me if there is something that we just pause and clarify. But I will also try and pause at different times just to see if there are any questions that are burning, and we'll have some time at the end for a little bit of Q&A as well. You will need a pen and paper for today, or some way to kind of write some notes, because I'll have you sort of writing some stuff down, answering some questions. And hopefully that sort of gives you some clarity over what we're doing here. The overview of what we're going to be talking about today. Well, so first we're going to start with a bit of a grounding exercise. But then I want to take you through a self-assessment that will just sort of help bring some awareness to what you have going on. If you don't already have a good awareness of that, but just bringing it to the surface and looking at it maybe in a different way. We're going to see if there's any areas that maybe you're looking to set some goals or make some shifts, and try and name those. We're going to use the SMART goal setting structure to sort of articulate those goals, and then really look at some of the different pitfalls that come up, different things that might get in the way of you sticking with the goals, because we all know how the goal settings can go sometimes. We start off with great intentions and then various things get in our way. And so with that, there'll be some different tips that I can offer that will hopefully help with goal setting success or goal completion success. So we'll start with some grounding. I'm just going to do a little bit of reading here. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge something important. because caregiving for someone living with kidney disease can be demanding in ways that are both visible and invisible. We've got appointments, medications, dialysis schedules, we're watching lab numbers, we're holding emotional weight, worrying about the future. For the next few minutes, nothing is required of you. You don't have to monitor anything. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to anticipate anything. This time is just for you. So I invite you to join me with some grounding. Place both feet flat on the floor. Rest your hands comfortably in your lap or on your thighs. And if it feels safe, gently close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a slow breath in through your nose and a long breath out through your mouth. Again, inhale slowly and exhale even more slowly. If it feels right, let's try a steady rhythm. Inhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhaling for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Try and slow your breath down, slowing the inhale, noticing a pause before you slowly exhale. As you breathe, notice where your body is supported. Notice the chair holding you. Notice the floor beneath your feet. Caregivers are so used to holding others. Right now, let yourself be held. Now gently bring your attention to your surroundings without judging or analyzing. Just notice. See if you can notice 5 things that you can see. Now notice 4 things you can physically feel. It could be the clothing on your skin, the feet in your shoes or your socks, air on your face, the texture of the chair or couch beneath you. See if you can notice 3 things that you can hear. It could be the sound of your own breath, and if you can, notice 2 things that you can smell, or simply 2 neutral scents in the room. And finally, notice 1 thing you are grateful for in this moment. It doesn't have to be big, it can be something small. You are here in this moment, and in this moment you are safe. Caring for someone with kidney disease often means living with uncertainty, waiting for the lab results, adjusting to treatment routines, managing fatigue, navigating changes. Silently complete this sentence in your mind. Even though caregiving is hard sometimes, I am still blank. Even though caregiving is hard sometimes, I am still blank. If you're feeling stuck, some ideas might be doing my best. I'm still strong. I'm still learning. If you'd like, you can place one hand over your heart. Take one slow breath in and one slow breath out. And offer yourself the same compassion you offer for the person you care for. Grounding doesn't remove the challenges of kidney disease. It doesn't change the appointments, the unpredictability, the hard, but it helps you meet those moments with a steadier nervous system. And that matters. When you feel overwhelmed, you can return to one slow breath and the feeling of your feet on the floor. As caregivers, you deserve steadiness too. Now gently wiggle your fingers and toes. Take one final deep breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes and look around. Now that we're all grounded, it's time to bring out that pen and paper. Just to start, this is a wellness self-assessment. And I often speak about the difference between health and wellness. If you heard me speak before, you might have heard my spiel about this. Health is often used to describe a state of being free from disease, the absence of illness. And wellness, on the other hand, is the active, conscious, and multidimensional pursuit of improving one's physical, mental, and social well-being. Wellness is an action, it's a practice, and it's also subjective. How you rate different areas of your health depends on what matters to you, where you're coming from, where you'd like to go, and even how you're feeling today. Most caregivers I've worked with rarely pause to check in on their own wellness and energy. So this self-assessment that we're about to do is about adding some clarity. It's not about adding pressure, but you can't adjust what you can't see. Awareness is the first step to being able to make changes. I'm going to show some categories, and I'd like you to rate each area from 1 to 5, 1 indicating a feeling of being depleted or lacking wellness, 5 indicating a sense of being well supported, feeling wellness in this area. There's no right or wrong score, and there's no benefit in judging yourself for where you're at. This is simply about awareness. So as we move through the exercise, I invite you to answer honestly, not as the caregiver you think you should be, but as the human being you actually are right now. You can think of it as a wellness snapshot. We're not diagnosing, we're not fixing, we're simply observing. All right. So when you consider your sense of wellness in relation to these points, maybe think about them over the last month, or if things are really in flux, maybe even just over the last week. So we'll look at the first category is physical health. We get the next slide, please. Physical health can include things like your sleep, your nutrition, your movement, tending to your own medical needs, general energy levels. So if you were to rate yourself in the last month or so, where would you be on that scale of 1, which is depleted and lacking wellness, to 5, which is doing great, feeling energized, feeling well? Just give yourself a score. Again, no right or wrong answer. Next category is emotional and mental health. So this could relate to how you feel in terms of stress, that emotional expression, the ability to sort of feel things within your own scope of regulation, having moments of calm, having people around you you can rely on, offering compassion to yourself, emotional health, mental health. Often I would separate these two, but for this exercise, we're sort of lumping them together. So again, 1, depleted, 5, feeling good, or somewhere in between. What would you rate yourself? And if you're thinking of any notes that might qualify that rating, feel free to jot those down as well. The third category that we're going to just rate ourselves on is social connection. So do you have a space where you can have honest conversation about what's happening in your life? Do you feel like you're heard, like you're understood, like you are validated? Do you feel able to ask for help when you need it? And having people there who can help. How about having an identity beyond your caregiver role? Having some time to do things for yourself with people that are not care providers. Again, we're not judging ourselves or going to get on our own case about where we should be. We're just collecting data right now. If you notice something feels low, that's information, not failure. Maybe this is where you'll identify a wellness goal that you'd like to work on. And if you notice something feels strong, that's worth celebrating. Maybe you've never actually stopped to think, this is actually going pretty well for me. Welcome your full humanness in this space. We're going to come back to this assessment in a little bit, these numbers. But first, we're going to do a little bit more information gathering. Here are some questions that ask a little bit more about what's going on with your daily demands. So I'll give you a few minutes to answer these questions, writing down any thoughts that come up. Again, trying to do so from a place of curiosity rather than judging self or guilt or any sort of opinion about it. What takes the most time in my week? What takes the most emotional energy? What feels unpredictable about kidney disease right now? And what feels repetitive or draining? A few minutes to jot down some notes there. If you'd like, using the chat, you could just jot in maybe what is one demand that feels heavy right now? I think everyone hopefully knows how to use the chat. Mhm. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, sometimes it's really just the everyday, say maybe mundane things like, yeah, yeah, here it comes through now. Can be the things like getting groceries and preparing meals and having to follow the restrictions that we might have to around renal diets, which vary depending on sort of where you're at with the kidney disease or treatments. And other times it's just that emotional piece that can really be draining. Yeah, everyday thing. Mhm. Feeling like the hall monitor. Yeah. As caregivers, it's often easy to focus on what's hard, right? And and that is true. That is valid, right? It's valid that there's a lot of hard parts. But let's pause right now and let's just notice what's strong, what's working. So take a moment and answer, just on the next slide, take a moment to answer some questions around your strengths and your resilience. Feel free to brag and give yourself full credit for what you are doing. What have I learned through caregiving? What strengths have emerged? What maybe surprised yourself about your resilience? Or what were you able to do that you didn't actually think you would be able to do, or you didn't know you were capable of? Think back to how far you've come on this journey. What can you celebrate? If you'd like, again, using the chat function, you want to think about what you're most proud of, you can put that into the chat. Share, brag, celebrate. Just acknowledge yourself. Hmm. Yeah. I often hear with caregivers, yeah, patience. I was going to say that people learn sort of their capacity for patience. Some also discover impatience, um, uh, ability to organize, ability to advocate, um, a different level of compassion, yeah, adaptability. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So through these last this sort of assessment we've just done in the last few slides, we've just done something pretty important. We've looked at sort of where you might feel depleted and what your days actually demand. We've looked at what strengths you have and what resilience you have. And this awareness is powerful. So what we want to do with this awareness for today is start to identify a focus area that you may want to set a goal for change in. So I want you to consider these questions, consider the information, right? You've just done some awareness raising and just collecting data. And consider what is not working as well as you'd like it to. Where is there maybe some friction? Where is change needed? And what might make a positive difference if it was different? So look back at your assessment. You look at where you could have had a lower score than you would have liked, or where you kind of felt that feeling of tension. Maybe it was an uncomfortable feeling when you were answering the question of like, oh. You don't want to ignore what you've just explored, what we've just talked about. You want to just think about what would be that small shift that could support you. Or if there's one area that feels a little bit sticky, you could ask yourself, if I improve this area by even just 5%, what would that look like? So choose one goal. You may have multiple, or you may be not sure if it's for sure the one that you want to work on, but just for the sake of today's session, choose one goal that you'd like to use to explore for change for today, and write it out in front of you. Just what is that goal? What is that area of change? What is the problem? Where's the shift? And just a very important reminder that we'll talk about more in detail in different ways, but particularly for caregivers who are so used to doing. Today is not about dramatic change. We're not wanting to set these overly ambitious, transformative goals. We aren't trying to overhaul your life or add more to your plate. We're not adding pressure. We just want to choose one small, doable adjustment that fits into your real life right now, considering all those demands that we just explored, treatment schedules, appointments, fatigue cycles, unpredictability. We want to build on what's already working well, using those amazing strengths of yours, and striving for sustainable movement. Okay. We're going to use the SMART goal setting framework to define your goals. Before we do that, I just want to spend a moment talking about one of the things that is, in my experience, most powerful to be successful with your goals. And that is talking about your why. So why is it important to clarify your why? That's the next slide, please. When we choose a goal that's important to us, that actually has meaning to us, and that we can connect with on a deeper level, we're more likely to follow through with it. It's as simple as that. So a few things to consider when you're choosing which goal you want to focus on. We've got to avoid the should goals. If the goal feels like something you should do rather than something that truly matters to you, that's going to impact your motivation. We need to set goals for ourselves, and we need to consider where that drive is coming from. Is it actually something that we truly want? Or are we trying to live up to some perceived expectation of what we should be doing? Have we been told we should be doing something, but we don't really necessarily see the importance or have that desire to do that thing? When setting goals, try asking yourself what motivates you to set this goal. You also want to align your goal with your values. And we can link our resolution to personal values. It's going to heighten our resolve to complete it. It needs to fit with the season. That means it needs to be realistic right now. We gathered all that information earlier. And, we gathered that information earlier, and it's important that we consider that. What do we have going on right now? What's going to fit this season? Right? There might be something that we want to do, but right now is not the time. So we may have to just put that goal on a pin board and consider it in the future. Or maybe it's something that we used to want to do. And if we actually really think about it now, maybe it's not something that we actually want to do anymore. You want to make sure it has meaning to you. It needs to feel emotionally meaningful. If it doesn't, dig deeper until it does. Connect with what matters to you. Is it health? Is it energy? Is it independence? That's going to strengthen your commitment. And if it connects to your bigger vision of what you want your life to be, what your definition of wellness is, you're going to be more motivated to stay on track when those days get hard, when it's harder to follow through on the action that it's taking. So maybe in the chat, if anybody wants to put in there, what gives meaning to your goals? That's a big question, I know. You don't have answers right now. Just something to think about.
Can we talk about this?
Could we talk about this?
I mean, can I say something or?
Sure.
Thanks. Yeah, what gives meaning to me? I've been very bad with meditation, but I think the main thing that's going to set me, after listening today, the main thing that's going to make me move forward with it now is knowing that if I'm there for myself, I'm going to be a lot more in the moment and there for my daughter.
100%. Yeah. And that is often that piece around the aligning with your values, right? If one of your values is to be available to your daughter or whoever it is you're caring for or somebody else in your life, connecting that if I do this thing that promotes wellness over here, it's going to help me to become a person who can align and fulfill that value over here. That connection.
Yeah.
Powerful. It's like, and then you can remind yourself of that on those days where it's like, oh, I don't want to do that thing that I have to do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. So we're going to talk a little bit about SMART goals. So making sure our goals are, hopefully everybody's heard of SMART goals before. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but to make goals realistic rather than just a vague wish, SMART goal setting, SMART is an acronym that we'll go over, is a simple structure that can help us to create goals that are going to be potentially more successful. The Kidney Wellness Hub Companion Journal has a great is a great support tool for setting SMART goals and for measuring your progress as well. So if you haven't already checked that out, I recommend that you have a look and see how it can support you with your goal setting. Thank you, Teresa, for sharing it in the chat. So SMART is an acronym, and there's a few variations to what each letter stands for. But essentially, S is for specific. So it needs to be a goal that's clear enough that you know what you're doing, right? Rather than it being a vague idea, you want it to be clear. Rather than being, I'll take better care of myself, you want to say, I'm going to take a 10-minute walk after dialysis drop-off. Example, we'll get into it a little bit more. M, measurable. You need to know whether it happened or not. Achievable. That speaks again to, is it something that you can do right now in this phase of life at this time with who you are and the body you're in, the time you have? R, relevant or realistic. So does it actually support your well-being? We don't want to be doing those should goals and doing something that somebody else thinks we should be doing. We want to do that it's realistic for us and meaningful to us. The T being time-bound or timely. So having a set framework is also a great way to hold you accountable to completing a goal within a certain time period or over a certain by a certain time frame. So with that, you have all wrote down hopefully that goal area that you're thinking just for even today, working through to see how it works, that you want to work on. So that small shift, we're going to go through and we're going to check to see if it fits the SMART goal setting structure. We might speed through this a little bit. I'm just making sure I'm watching the time. I want to make sure we have time for the pitfalls. But you can always come back or use the companion journal to go through again and just sort of recheck as it goes. Or if you decide you have a different goal you'd like to work on, then you can do that as well. Okay, so the step one is specific. What exactly will you do? So if you look at your goal in front of you, is it something specific, a specific action, rather than a vague idea? If it's not specific, edit, make it more specific. Measurable. How will you know it happened? Do you have a way to track it or to know, okay, I completed that goal? If it's something that's more of an ongoing, walk 3 times a week for 10 minutes, you have a calendar that you can put stickers on. You have a way to say, yes, I am doing what I said I would do. Is it achievable? If you were to think on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you can do this? If it's below 7, try shrinking the goal. You want to set yourself up for success. You don't want to set yourself up for disappointment. The more you achieve things, the more encouraged you'll feel to set more goals and achieve more. Relevant. Why does this matter to you? You can answer this question for yourself too. This matters because when I feel blank or when I do blank, I can care with more steadiness. That's a piece about being a caregiver who can show up as a caregiver, show up for others in that role. It's going back to that why. And finally, time bound. Choose a time frame. Doesn't have to be forever. It can be a trial period. Or if it's a one-time thing, like I need to call that friend and touch base, that can be a wellness goal right there. It could be I need to make that, doctor's appointment. Okay, by when? When are you going to do that by? If you're like me and you're deadline driven, then having that timestamp is going to be what helps you get it done. Deadline driven being another way of saying procrastinator. So again, your goal doesn't have to be this big, impressive, life-altering thing. It needs to be sustainable. Sustainable caregivers provide sustainable care. Even a small shift can change how your week feels, can change how you show up. So try and complete this sentence. My small step or goal is, I will do it by when or how, and I will know I succeeded when. You can see that sort of not in the right order, but it hits all the points of SMART goal setting. Take a moment to write that out for yourself. I'm just going to pause and ask if there's any burning questions, anything that anyone needs to say before we get into pitfalls. Anything that we're stuck on. It's hard when I can't see everyone's faces and see if there's like looks of confusion or, looks of understanding. So please speak up if you're totally lost or if you have a burning question. Okay, then we'll move forward. Potential pitfalls. I have named 8 here. I think there are 8. There are more potential ones, but these are some that I really want to speak to. So number 1, setting goals that are too big. Caregivers are used to having high responsibility, being ambitious, working hard, and taking on lots of things often. So that can translate over to setting goals, where we set ambitious goals. I'm going to exercise every day. I'm going to cook super healthy meals, 3 times a day, every day. They're going to meet every criteria. I'll never feel overwhelmed again. So this is just setting yourself up for problems. Even though caregivers are usually very high functioning and able to manage complex systems, what we want to do is just, again, bring it back, setting smaller shifts that are going to be sustainable. We don't want to burn you out. You've got probably enough on your plate. That cognitive and emotional overload can lead to burnout and discouragement when we take on too much. So instead, just focus on 1 or 2 meaningful goals, kind that actually connect with you. And then you can layer on the new habits over time. Pitfall number 2, guilt. Guilt about focusing on yourself. This one is huge for caregivers. Even taking time to come to a meeting like this can often be met with feelings of, oh, this is, other things I could be doing, should be doing. That you feel bad for taking any time for yourself. My loved one needs me. Oh, this feels so selfish. There's something more important going on. And caregivers often put their own needs last. But as we just mentioned earlier, taking time for yourself is going to help you to show up as a better caregiver. Taking 10 minutes for yourself, taking moments for yourself is not taking away from your time with your loved one. It's actually strengthening your capacity to care. A depleted caregiver cannot provide regulated care. So if you are scoring on that depleted end of things for any of your categories, that's not going to serve you well in your caregiver capacity. Never mind for your own wellness, but if we're talking about that guilt about spending time on you, that's not going to help you care for others. The other thing that I warn against is comparing yourself to other caregivers, care partners, right? It's easy to compare and think that everyone else has got it figured out, is managing so much better. But that's a dangerous pitfall in itself. Number 3, unplanned change or different events. Medical issues arise, unexpected lab changes, dialysis complications, hospitalizations, fatigue spikes. Caregivers' goals, out the window they go. That's often what happens. Kidney disease is unpredictable and can vary, can be cyclical. So when things shift, oftentimes our self-care is the first thing that's sacrificed. Our routines become more unpredictable, it becomes hard to plan and follow through. If your goal gets interrupted by a health issue, that's not failure. That's reality. Goals can pause, they can be adjusted, and then you can get back at it when it's right. So when setting goals, it helps if you can come up with something that's somewhat flexible and not too fragile to unexpected and unplanned changes. Also allow yourself to win with these smaller steps, right? If your typical goal has to be shifted around these unplanned changes and you manage to do that, or maybe you recognize that you're needed somewhere else, that can be a win in itself. This is, I'm just going to speak a little bit more to this one because it is such a big one. It's very important actually to anticipate and plan for setbacks. Remind yourself why you're here, why you chose this goal. You can reevaluate. You can revise the plan. And you can continue forward. So if things go unhinged, if you fall off that plan because of whatever reason, just review what went on, what happened without judgment. Again, go back to that data collection and adjust the plan. Don't abandon it. The next pitfall is emotional exhaustion. Not the physical, but the emotional. So maybe by the end of your day, you're helping with dialysis, you're attending appointments, you're cooking all the meals, you're doing all the things. Maybe you're just emotionally drained. So if that's sort of something that might come up, try a low friction goal. Try setting yourself up for something that is a reduced variation. If typically your goal would be to walk 30 minutes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on Wednesday you're just feeling like wiped, maybe you just go for 3 minutes. You give yourself that grace. Long-term caregiving is more of a marathon than a sprint. So you got to take the breaks when you need them. And offer yourself some compassion. If you're feeling unmotivated, you're feeling flat, you're feeling exhausted, it doesn't mean you're lazy or that you're failing. It might just mean that you're depleted. And maybe the goal in that moment or in that season, talk about what's here for this season, maybe the goal is rest or taking time to do nothing intentionally. Maybe the goal is reaching out for support, talking to a friend, taking care of yourself. Next pitfall, all or nothing thinking. This one's kind of self-explanatory, but it's sort of that concept of you miss one day of your plan, like, well, I failed. What's the point? It's done. And then you quit. Caregivers often hold themselves to high standards. So missing once happens. Missing twice, maybe you're seeing a pattern. That's data. That's information. Maybe that means the plan needs to be adjusted. Don't abandon. Just collect the data and move forward. Ideally, we're focusing on consistency rather than intensity. So if you can do a small action rather than huge things, that sustainability piece will be a lot more possible. Progress over perfection. Next pitfall, lack of environmental support. So the reality is sometimes we have very little support around us. We might not have people we can call on when we need some respite. We might have jobs that are demanding. We might have financial constraints. We might have multiple responsibilities that are pulling us in different directions. So if you find that your life has sort of zero margin to add on a wellness goal, something else that you can do right now, say in this season, maybe the goal is not about adding something, it might be about removing something. So the goal could be saying no, could be simplifying a routine. It could be asking for help if there are people around who can help. Recognize where you're at and set your goals appropriately for that. Next pitfall, unclear systems and lack of accountability. This is that measurement piece. So a goal without context just gets forgotten. I'll practice breathing. That's my goal. It's not going to get you very far. I'll practice breathing during my dialysis wait times. Great. And I'll mark it on the calendar with a sticker. I love sticker charts to give myself that accountability. So a system can reference tying your goal to another activity that can start to create those habits in partnership. It can be scheduling it into your calendar, like a meeting, if you have, or an appointment, right? If you had an important appointment, how do you remember that? How do you make sure you show up for that? It's important. So there's a way that you get there. How can you treat your goals with the same honor and respect? With your system, can you prep some materials ahead of time? Can you put your running shoes out by the door? Make it that much easier. And having some accountability. It's easy to quit things when nobody else even knows we're doing them. So share your goals. Share them with your friends, share them with your partners, your loved ones. There's apps you can get. Accountability can come from within ourselves, but it can also be supported by others around us. Another trick around this one is pairing the activity with something pleasurable. So maybe it's you put on your favorite podcast or some music while you're working out, or you make a cup of your favorite tea or drink while you're journaling. Maybe you get to watch one of your favorite shows while you're on the treadmill. Whatever it might be, if there's a way to pair it with something that you enjoy, it might help that consistency. The last pitfall that I want to speak about is the drift and fade. This is what I call it, where we sort of set ourselves up, we've got our goal, we've got our plan, and then we just do it or don't do it, and it fades into nothing until eventually we're just not doing it. And there's been no real point where we quit or stopped. It just fades away, and we look back and, oh yeah, I thought I was going to be doing that thing. So this comes when we don't revisit and check in with ourselves, if we don't have a scheduled way to evaluate how things are going and revise as needed. Evaluate and revise is my addition, the ER, in a smarter goal setting, where we actually are doing the goal, and maybe we say every week we're going to check in, or after a month of doing this, we're going to check in, we're going to evaluate, we're going to see how things are going, and then we're going to revise the plan. What's working? What's not? What needs to be tweaked? Humans love seeing proof of improvement. So if you have a way to track your success, track your progress, it gives you these little dopamine hits, and that makes you want more. So find a system, find a way, set yourself up, put it in your calendar, or again, however it is that you track things, to check in with yourself. How are you doing? What's working well? What maybe needs to be adjusted, right? Again, it's not failure if it's not working. It just means that that plan needs to be changed. If you have an accountability partner, maybe you have regular check-ins with them. And then celebrate. Celebrate the wins, celebrate the effort, not just the outcomes. If you show up for yourself, celebrate that. You could even have regular weekly journaling or some way to say, what am I proud of from this week? What helped me succeed or feel better? And maybe with curiosity and compassion, not with judgment, but what got in my way? Those are some of the pitfalls. There's a few extra tips that I'd like to just share on the next slide. It's a little recap. I've probably actually said most of these things throughout the last hour, but don't overcommit to new habits. You don't want to overwhelm your system. And again, as caregivers, your systems are probably already pretty full. If it isn't working, don't force it. Just collect the data and go from there. Something is better than nothing. So just do something. Don't have to have some sort of huge ambitious goal that then you think, oh, well, I don't have time for that. Forward is forward. Notice your patterns. Where do things go smoothly? Where is there friction? When do you feel less inclined to do the things? And what helps things feel easier? Notice without judgment. Just data collection, it's just information gathering, it's just awareness raising. Just one choice at a time. Caregiving in kidney disease can feel like managing a system. Got numbers, timing, logistics. Today, I hope you were able to take a chance to step back and look at yourself as part of that system. Part of that system that needs to be taken care of. Healthy systems require healthy caregivers. And these small steps can matter and make a difference. Your well-being is not secondary. It's foundational. Maybe write in the chat. Curious to see one or two words in the chat. What are you taking from today? So when you're setting goals, If it feels too heavy, shrink it. If it gets interrupted, restart it. If it feels impossible, adjust it. And again, that companion journal that's offered through the Kidney Wellness Hub is a great tool to get you started on your goals, to help you reflect on your goals, and to support you with accountability. Kidney Foundation also offers up to 3 sessions of kidney wellness coaching with me. That is something that you would be interested in to work a little bit more one-on-one on either setting the goals, creating a plan, or figuring out what might be getting in the way of you finding that wellness that you're after.